Whew, a bit of a time, I tell you. I never give myself enough. I'm sorry. I'm like a couple minutes late. But I see everyone that's here. Hi, Rescue, Mayo, Lake, Frank Meister, PGH. Happy Friday to you too. The Royal We. What's up? Angel Bear. All right. Hey, Fiend, what's up? So this is kind of a prequel to Burn After Reading live, and I will be going live at 6. This stream will redirect you straight to that stream. We're going to try to slime you cast it or whatever that's called. But we'll see. Neither one of us are real efficient. And I don't know if there's any other creators in the chat that use StreamYard. How upset are you at the, I don't know, $25 some per month raise in the price? Like, I'm not paying that. I am not paying that. Like, so I don't know what's going to happen to all the videos that I have on there or what, but no, that's not acceptable to go from like $17 a month to $45. I'm not good with math, so I might have been wrong on the 25. Hey, Artsy Fartsy. Designs by Shar or Share. Just trying to get me to laugh, right? Baba, Black Sheep. Hi, have you any wool? Yeah, Slime You Cast. I can never say it right. Rescue. And thank you for all that you do. And I also want to start out by thanking Aspen, Connor, and Turbo Time for doing their playlist, which is in the description down below, because I was watching True Crime Grit the other day, and she had run through the transcripts, and she was like, but I was there, and this doesn't really give you, because we didn't receive all of them. Like, why are so many missing? I don't understand why the defense shouldn't just ask for those, because then ordinary people wouldn't have to pay to have them transcribed, but whatever. So I did end up going through and kind of highlighting some key points from all the witnesses that we don't have transcripts for. But I'm going to be starting on the 31st, and let's roll. Oh my gosh, I'm so thirsty. Hold on. I have so many papers over here. Aspen would be freaking out because they're kind of a disaster. Okay. Well, should have got to the document that I actually wanted before I shared my screen, right? Jeez, tell you what. No. Yeah. Okay, I think I'm doing it now. Make sure it's working. All right. So I got this from News Nation. It was just kind of an overall view of like what the hearings were actually about. So Allen's safekeeping. Should he stay in the Indiana Department of Corrections facility or be moved to the county jail before trial? The psychologist's statements from the IDOC psychologist, whether those can be used, suppressing Allen's statements. The defense wants to suppress what he said while in custody before trial and what he said to an ISB officer the day he was arrested. Discovery issues. Defense wants to compel some discovery from prosecution and have prosecution sanctioned. What both sides can and can't say in front of jurors without specific permission from the judge. Defense requests to dismiss the case entirely. I think this is their third request for that. So then we go to... So July 30th of 2024, court was supposed to start at 11 a.m., but Judge Gall was an hour and 13 minutes late because of traffic. So that would be so unacceptable if they were Hullman and Rosie. I'm just saying. Okay, so the first hearing that was held was on the motion to vacate safekeeping. So Carroll County Sheriff now is Tony Liggett. At the time of the safekeeping order, that was Sheriff Tobe Lesenby. And so the defense asked for Allen to be moved to Cass County, which is he's there now. Liggett did not have a problem with it, but felt that they still could not keep him safe at Carroll County, which I totally agree. Because he would be in general population since that's all they have. McClellan did not object, but he made mention that they didn't know what had changed between this motion and the last one that she denied. He also said, I would say that his mental health status is what had changed. He was stabilized and on medication and things like that, but that's just my guess. He also said that Cass County does not have the mental and medical health facilities that he currently has at Wabash as readily available. And that's just true across the board for, you know, and I want to make note that Westville is actually a minimum to medium security prison. So when it's in blue like this, it's just like me. So I wanted to go back to, because people have been talking about how it's Allen's right to due process, at least his constitutional rights were violated because Judge Diener granted the safekeeping order without a hearing. And that he did not have lawyers at that time. But in the very original hearing, Allen told the judge that he would be hiring his own counsel, which I would probably say that too. Like, imagine you're never been in court before. Like, I guess I am responsible to do that. I'm going to get my own, thinking that's going to be better. And then you quickly realize, like, oh, there's no way. It's financially not an option, which that is a whole side table issue for me with the people not having to use public defenders instead of being able to hire their own lawyers due to the cost. But I do get it. But Judge Diener did not err in not holding a hearing. The hearing part based upon just the Indiana code. So the code is 353311.1, and this is section 1. Upon motion, that's all it says, by the sheriff, that's what happened. So we'll just stop there. Alleging that an inmate in a county jail awaiting trial, so pre-detainee, that is in danger of seriously bodily injury or death or represents a substantial threat to the safety of others, the court shall, and he wasn't safe. Like, come on, people, let's be real. Carroll County is it's not organized, and the jail they were building a new one. Like, there's no way that he would be able to be there, especially with the likes of like Guarinos in the world trying to get in there. And if he, like, he's already threatened to kill him, I don't know how many times. So have other people, many other people, which is just disgusting behavior all the way around. But, like, this is prison, this is jail. Like, he's accused of killing 2 teen girls. Like, he's gonna be a target in general pop. I don't think anybody wanted him there. But it says that the court finds that the inmate is in danger of seriously bodily injury or death, or represents a substantial threat to the safety. The sheriff shall order the sheriff to transfer inmate to another county jail or to a facility of the Department of Corrections designated by the commissioner of the department as suitable for the confinement. So, I'm not going to get into what happened to him after being moved all of these many, many times. I think that's the first. But that's Judge Steiner's order. And I heard people talk about that it's not signed. And it is. It is signed. On any acts. So he makes it very clear. This finding is not predicated on any acts or alleged acts of the defendant since arrest, rather a toxic and harmful insistence of public information about defendant in this case. And I do think that wording is a little loose, but then he goes on to state the statute. So I don't know. I just thought that he is really showing his personal feelings at that time until he quickly recused himself. But this is true. The Carroll County Sheriff's has limited resources to conduct its base operations, let alone any duties mandated by our Supreme Court. So, and then they quote that, and it's signed by him. And the Indiana, I don't know if it's right now, but IDOC commissioner, her name is Christina Regal, and she was appointed by Governor Holcomb in 2022, October of 2022. So right around this time. And then she later granted this, and now Alan is in Cass County Jail. I guess they built a new jail in Cass County. So good for them. I hope they have some recidivism programs. All right, let's check chat. Any questions so far? It's just pretty basics. Hey Vid, how are you? Hey Heather. Do the county jails have the ability to administer meds? I think so. I just don't think that they have the specific like units for for mental health and medical, especially not like Wabash has, which was where he was transferred from Wabash to Cass. So I don't know what PM means. What's happening? My light is twinkling. I don't think that's a word. Okay. They don't like, so at IDOC, like if you just reading all about when it comes in later into these hearings about the rules and regulations that and policies, protocols that like a state that like there's Indiana State Prison, which is maximum security, and then there's like Westfield, Pendleton, Wabash. I don't know. There's a bunch of them, and so they all vary in their what types of inmates they hold, and obviously where they are. And then in Plainfield is I never can remember the name of it, the I have it in here later, RCD or whatever, where everyone goes for like once you go there to be processed, they do all kinds of forms. There's policies, you can find all what goes on there online. And then they allocate you to where they think would best be for you to go. RDC, yeah. Oh, Fiend's got a question. Oh boy. Why are people cheerleading for the geofencing to be suppressed? Shouldn't we want to know? I do. I've read like a bunch of different people's notes. I've read all of these hundreds and hundreds of papers of transcripts. I've looked it up independently. I've tried to find like case law for it. I don't know, because I've used Life 360 since my oldest daughter, who is 22 now, since she turned 16. And I find it's geofencing. So I find it to be highly accurate. So, but that's in 2024. When I first got it, back then it wasn't. I had to have a big geofence around places, but now, but I will say again, like the geofence on Life 360, I think you can only get within 200 yards, which I would find that to still be relevant, but I don't know. I haven't found a single thing that says that geofencing is like, I don't know. It was just, I don't have any clarity on what the ruling actually is. So if you have it, Fiend, coldtruthpodcast@gmail.com, because I have looked and looked. Thank you, Mayo. Very sweet of you. Hello, Illinois newspaper. Watching from Germany. Ooh. Yeah, he still needs money perpetually. It's only good up to 200 meters. I don't know anything about meters, but mine is yards. Let me see. Oh, of course, they're experiencing some technical difficulties. No, it's 250 feet is the zone on. This is just on my Life 360. The zone that I could put around my house, like I used to have the bus stop on it, the school, work, just places, because my kids are drivers, which I still love it. It's awesome. But yeah, 250 feet. So I don't know. I don't know. I would think that there would surely be some experts out there that could testify to clear it up. Like we'll get into it later. I mean, where it brings it up, Rick and I will talk about it for sure. But that is the one thing that I don't have a I don't know. I think it's a little odd myself. I don't think there is another single case where state had motion in limine out geofencing. It's a state tool. If anybody can find one, please let me know. Yeah, same. Okay, I'm gonna continue on. So the motion to compel and sanction hearing, this was a defense motion to compel and sanction. Defense attorney Jennifer OJ, right? OJ said the team has received 26 terabytes of data, which includes more than 48,700 files. She told the court many of the files are labeled with numbers, making it very difficult and time-consuming to determine what is in each file. And I kind of wonder if this isn't because when I save something and I don't go in and like manually change the title of what I'm saving, that's exactly what it does to me. So that they just not label anything. They just like got the file, you know, if you, a video and you save it to your drive or whatever. Like it'll just be a series of numbers. That's literally what it sounds like. They didn't take the time to like go through and just like label everything. And depending on your style, I still label everything and I still can't find it. Like, I mean, I don't know how. I'm trying to get a better system because I'll try to do date, but I'm terrible with dates. So that's been a bad idea. So now I need to go and like change them all to like whatever I would happen to be thinking of that I need to think of that phrase and then, but that's never going to happen. Anyway, that it's very difficult and time consuming to determine what is in each file. She said the primary problems the defense has are that the discovery is not organized and that it is sometimes not turned over in a timely manner, like finding a needle in a haystack. Auger did say it was a 7-year-long investigation. And these are all from the notes I took from Aspen and Turbo's playlist. Auger described how, and some other people, Auger described how a Google search warrant works. Auger was asked, I just can't. I'm going to call her a digger like every time. Ajay. Now I'm calling her French dip sauce. Ajay was asking for an instruction manual for how the discovery works. Ajay asked that the new cell phone extraction by Cecil be turned over. They did not have this. Cecil did his depo on May 15th of 2024. I don't know. I find it like, I feel like they should have had this. Like everybody should have had this freaking report. Like this is a huge part of these hearings and you did it in May, June, July, August. Like why wasn't it just already here? Like already have it so that, because when you're talking about all of this old stuff, when it has to do with these, you know, phone extractions, it's old information, or is it? Or is he testifying to, like, I don't know. I didn't know what was going on with this. We'll get into Cecil on, I think, the third day, but he was ordered to turn it over by October 1st. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. So trip to Georgia, everybody's been talking about it. The defense took a trip to Georgia to get some key, I'm assuming like a screenshot from Brad Holder's Facebook from 2012. Some people think it's a mimicking of the crime scene. I think that's a leap, but Exhibit C. So the state says that they do not have this. They don't have it. So therefore they can't turn it over in discovery. Because again, remember, this is a motion to compel and sanction hearing. Baldwin said the trip to Georgia cost $12,000. So the prosecution strongly so quote, the prosecution strongly disagreed. Quote, I feel like a job for the defense, McLuhan said. We've done everything possible to make this easy for them. They're not required to, but it's like kind of a bold statement to make. Prosecution said they had turned over the discovery. He took the two things about the Georgia image and the tip, and they had that they had turned over. This was like a sidebar, I think. So August 16th, 2024. Quote, the court, so this is her order. She had already ordered on this, so I just went ahead and put it in a court. Having taken defendant's motion to compel and motion for sanctions under advisement following the hearing conducted on July 30th, and having reviewed the submitted exhibits and arguments of counsel, now denies the defendant's motion to compel and motion to sanction, as the defendant has failed to comply with trial rule 26F in seeking an informal resolution of discovery disputes. However, the court will order the state to turn over Sergeant Sechel's report within 10 days of date in this order, and that any new discovery be provided within 7 days of the receipt. So any new discovery, I'm pretty sure that means from the defense and the prosecution. The court further orders the parties to exchange a list of trial exhibits by October 1st. So we'll take a little break, see what's happening in the chat. Where did I leave off? Thank you, Vid. That's very sweet of you. Pay it forward, hop on board the wave. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for saying so, Lake. Hey, Justice Served Daily, good to see you. It doesn't sound like they made things easy for them. It sounds like they made things difficult. I just like what I talked about earlier. Like, is it just as difficult for them to find their own stuff? But I know that Mullins, I guess he had gone back through and tried to like label things, which I don't know why you wouldn't just do that as you go. But again, what McLeland's getting is from the investigation. So, and then he's probably also, all of the early things he's getting them from the investigation from Ives. So, like, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would just, you have to turn it over, but it doesn't necessarily have to be turned over organized. If I was a lawyer on either side, I would probably not. I wouldn't want to, like, I don't know. I guess if you're not trying to like put a strategy of just like overwhelming, because both sides have to turn over discoveries. But obviously a 7-year investigation is going to be lengthy. This one, because the public went wild. Like the tip line, I mean, just, there were so much, which can be, it can have its pitfalls, such as, things getting overlooked. The FBI has that Orion that sorts things, but can you rely on something like that? Or like, so when you get hundreds of thousands of tips, a lot of them are probably repeats. A lot of them are probably just from social media people like sleuthers. So I don't know. I think it can have obviously the more media attention, the more pressure you're putting on the powers that be. But then when you're asking the public for help and then they're helping you, you're going to be quite overwhelmed by the response, especially when it goes global. Yeah, I do too. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I think labeling files should be considered a professional courtesy. Yeah, you're right. Should be an expectation, but shouldn't be an expectation, but should be the goal. I agree with that completely. Well said. Hey, Gambies. How are you, ma'am? Okay. So back to it. So now we're going into can you guys hear me okay? I didn't even ask. I'm assuming you can because you're responding to, is my mic like low, too high, too low, needs to be closer? What y'all think? Mic okay? Man, there's such a lag. Okay, good, good. I know I am. I am so rude. I get that a lot. I'll tell you a story about that later. Okay. So there was opening statements, and I just got this from WTHR 13. So, quote, as testimony began, the defense worked to build a case that the state overlooked evidence that the defense has clearly pointed to a suspect other than Richard Allen. His attorneys also cite what they seek as long unjustified delays in turning over discovery and possible evidence, particularly items that might be favorable to Allen and help clear him of the crime. So Baldwin gave an opening statement. He brought in a email exchange. So this is an exhibit between Jay Abbott and Massa. I think that's Greg Massa, the FBI. Jay Abbott, isn't he like, is he FBI or is he like a lead ISP? I've heard those names before, but Massa, I know he's the someone from Grits chat, Indianapolis. He was the director of the Indianapolis FBI, but I think he is not it anymore, but the director of the FBI was briefed on this, I think, within the first month of it happening. There was already, briefs being sent to the director of the FBI as a whole. So Baldwin entered exhibits E, F, and G, and there was a 1-minute clip of a BH interview video. So wish I could have gone to these. I should have gone. I really should have. BH stated he only thought he had only met Abby twice, but said to not quote him on that. Later, he changed it to he only met her once. And then, I don't know, by Amber Holder's testimony, did he meet her at all? I don't know. And now we have Trooper Roland Purdy. I'm going to be totally old school and read from mine to back up. Ugh. All right. Is it like super far away? Probably should move this little Mikey. Oh, cool. Such a risk. Okay. I don't even know what's happening. Hey, Johnny. Okay. So, hey, Chris. All right, this is Detective Roland Purdy. He is Indianapolis State Police. This was his testimony that was heard on July 30th during the motion to dismiss, right? Yeah. Okay, so Attorney Baldwin was the one on direct exam. He's Indianapolis State Police, and he said, one of the things was, did you investigate at some point in time Brad Holder? And he stated that he'd been cleared, so I had looked at his Facebook, that type of thing, with the understanding that he had been cleared already. Okay, so were you familiar with social media? Is that correct? Yes. I'm going to hand you what's previously marked Defendant's Exhibit L, and I want to look at the middle. The middle. Tell me if that is recognizable to you. And he said he'd never seen this before the deposition. And so I think later we'll figure out what this exhibit was, but it's a photo. So then it's exhibit, he hands him Exhibit J, and he said, can you identify this? And he says, yes. It's at the left photo is a picture of Libby Williams' deceased body. The right photo is a picture of bodies and the stick formations that I believe was on Brad Holder's Facebook page. This is what Purdy testified to, that the photo on the left was Libby's spot, and I think he means Abby because it says LW. So Abby Williams' deceased body. And on the right, the photo in the picture is of the stick formations that were on Brad Holder's Facebook post from 2012. And he said, and you verified that later, that in the previous deposition. He said, yes, that you saw that. What's on the right side, photo, Exhibit J, that you saw that on Brad Holder's Facebook. And but your testimony today, and that's the one with the hanging man upside down, you don't remember seeing that. And he says, I don't remember seeing that. So Baldwin says, fair enough, I don't have any of the other questions. So cross-examination is by Luttrell, which I haven't heard much from him, so glad he's popping around. And this is the only one that I accidentally did front and back print. So annoying. So Luttrell asked to see the Exhibit J, and he said his question was in reference to Exhibit J. You've indicated you're familiar with that photo, and Purdy says yes. Luttrell says it's a side-by-side photo. One side is from the crime scene in this case, and he says yes. What is, in this, Luttrell asks, where is the other photo from? And Purdy says, I believe Facebook. And Luttrell asks, how do you know that? Well, I believe I saw it on Facebook. Okay, and were you asked about it in your deposition? And he says yes. That was, I think it was referenced to in August of 2023. Yeah. He said, yes, I believe it was dated in 20. So Luttrell asked, he said, and you recognize that photograph as it indicated you thought it was dated some years before the crimes. He said, I believe it was dated in 2012. That's when it was posted on Facebook. That's what Luttrell asked him, and he said that's correct. So then it goes on. They introduce Exhibit M. Can you tell me what this is? This is still Luttrell. He says, I believe that's the complete photo that was in the right half. So the crime scene photo that you showed me a little bit ago. And that's the one. No, so this Brad Holder post still. And that's the one that you saw on Brad Holder's Facebook. And he said yes. So Baldwin moved to admit. And there was no objection. So he was excused once we're finished that time. So now it's recross of Purdy by Luttrell. So there was a redirect that I forgot to say. That was a redirect. So Luttrell asked Purdy, Detective Purdy, approximately what time frame did you work and assist on this investigation? And he says approximately March of 2017 to probably March of 2018. So about a year, pretty early on. And prior to that, what was your assignment with the Indiana State Police? And he said, I was a detective with the state police. I had been assigned to a FBI task force. During the process of becoming a task force officer, there's a background investigation, and there was a hold on my investigation. So they sent me to Delphi to help with the investigation. So that's why he was there for that year. And while my investigation was being done. So in the process of assisting, this is Luttrell, during the approximate 1 year, did you interview Brad Holder? And he says, yes, at the Logansport Police Department, which is the town where Holder lives and couch surfs. And did you question him about the murders at Delphi? And he said, no. This one really threw me for a loop, I have to say. You interviewed him, but you didn't question him about the murders in at Delphi. And he said, no, nope, sure didn't. Would you tell the court what you did question him about, and what did Brad Holder tell you? And he says, I was told that Brad Holder would be a good source of, this is a quote, Brad Holder would be a good source of information concerning Odinism. And so myself and Detective Lori Lemler asked Brad Holder to come to the Logansport Police Department, and we talked to him about the Odinism. Is there do we have I don't think they recorded it though. No, they didn't. We were, was there anything shared by Brad Holder that shed light on who killed the victims of this murder? And he said, no. Now, again, they're not there to ask him about the murders, but they did ask him about the murders. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to be real serious. And he said, did you write a report to, he said, not to my knowledge. And did you record the interview? I didn't have it recorded. If it was done by Lori Lemler. So we should probably ask her. He said he called her and she didn't remember it. Was it her understanding? It wasn't. So she says, yes, I don't think it was. Have you ever come across a report? Nope. Do you have any reason to believe that there's a recording out there? No. Interview, they did not cover the Delphi murders. And he said, no, we didn't cover the Delphi murders. Which is okay. But were you deposed? Well, you've already testified that you were deposed. So that was in August of 2023. He was deposed. And did you mention this interview of Brad Holder? And he said yes. And did you tell the defense that you did not know it was recorded, that you did not record it yourself, and had no record of it being recorded? And he said that's correct. So then we have a redirect exam of Purdy by Baldwin. And he said, Brad Holder didn't say, I killed those girls to you. Quotes, I killed those girls to you. He said, no. Okay. And you should have written a report, correct? Not necessarily. I mean, is that a question? I wish I was there to hear, like, see their, like, how they were, like, their, like, what they sounded like when they were saying these things. And he said, yes, it is. Yes, it's a question. So he answers, okay, in cases where we talk to somebody concerning subject matter, a report wouldn't necessarily be made. And I do agree with that. I just think that it was a contradiction to say that you ask him if he would know of anyone that would kill Abby and Libby, but he's just there to get information about Odinism from Brad Holder. But again, you know, that could have been I think it would be a smart investigative move to be like, hey, you know, we've already cleared you, which looks like they have, but like, so we're still kind of like wondering about this. And we saw that you seem to be very knowledgeable. So to a guy like Brad Holder, he's going to eat that right up. That's just going to feed his ego right on up. And I could see him agreeing to the interview just based on that. And if it's, you know, non-custodial, meaning like they're just fact, like they're gathering information, you know, so wouldn't necessarily be any reason to record, but say he did say something in the middle of it, they would, you know, kind of back things up, do Miranda rights, get it recorded, you know, based on what he said. I don't know. That was just a thought I had. There really wasn't like anything that was just, you know, bombshell about Purdy's testimony, but he said, you know, again, he reiterated they were just looking for information. And then he was asked, Becky Patty is the one that led you to Brad Holder. Is that correct? And he said, that's who first told me that Brad Holder was an Odinist. Yeah, that's correct. And I see a bunch of people, like, because I've been in these Facebook groups since day one. So the amount of people that unsolicited were sending, you know, like Logan Holder. Obviously, there's a picture of Abby and Logan, like, you know, like, so see that. You go to Logan and then you see like these pictures of his dad and you're like, whoa, you know, just imagine that in the beginning. So I just think people like her telling, sending that on, you know, based on probably what was in the Facebook groups. I'm just saying, because it was all over the Facebook groups. Ask the Facebook admins and mods that have been here the whole time. And again, he's asked, and he said, and what interested you about it was that the unusual stick configurations found at the scene in Norse paganism as a possible explanation for how those girls were murdered, right? That's why you went over to talk to Brad. And he said, that's correct. And he said, or not, that's not why I talked to Brad. Because I was told he had been cleared just for information from Brad concerning Odinism. So, is it Baldwin that says, my gosh? Did you go talk to Patrick Westfall about Odinism? He said, no. Did you go talk to anybody else about Odinism? Yes. Who else? Tony Portwood. He works for the state police. He said, yes. There's a few other ones. Beverly Shores, police chief. She's also a practicing Odinist. He said, okay. he said that there was an Indianapolis officer who was also an Odinist, and we had spoken with him. So this was about a month or so after the girls died, and he said that Lori was only in Delphi for like 1 month in 2017. Yes. Baldwin asked, he said, "Did you know Patrick Westfall's name?" And he said, "Yes." And Baldwin says, "Oh, and you knew he was a Norse paganist?" And he said, "Yes. I believe he mentioned Brad or Patrick Westfall, that he was the leader of the Odinist group." Neither one of them are leaders of the Odinist group, just FYI. Not that they weren't at that time. They were, but they're both they served in the military together as well. And then Brad and Patrick, and then I think Messer was artillery, so he served as well. And then that's what the gun, I'm gonna botch it, but the Gungree's path. So the Gungreer, I don't know how to say it, is Odin's spear, which is very significant in this religion. Because when Odin sacrificed himself for himself, he hung by the foot from a tree with a spear. He speared him like through the stomach, I think. I'm trying to remember. And he hung there for 9 days to get the runes. So the spear is very important in this religion. And the from what I remember researching, the gun, because there's a post in 2016 where Holder is telling like basically like Westfall's gonna hold it down here because I'm feeling called to go and help with the Gungreer's path, which from what I can find, like in order to join that, like in order to be in that, you have to be former military, you have to have served, and they have like some honorary that they feel are like warriors on the streets or whatever. But like other than that, they're Odin's warriors, basically. And the Gungreer is the spear. So I don't know where people are getting that. Brad Holder didn't become an Odin until 2018 when he met Amber Holder, because he was into all this at least back in 2016. So then we get to that he drew a rune on his wrist. He says yes. And it's entered as Exhibit K, and it was I'm going to hand you what's been marked Exhibit K. Tell me when you've seen what's on the right hand side there. So I'm assuming again they keep doing these like side by side images for their exhibits. And what is that? And he says, which way are we? I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. The marking on not that. Okay. And then he says, okay, so not Abby Williams' body, but the other. Okay. Are you familiar with that? And he said, yes, that is the marking on Brad Holder's hand that he posted a couple of months after the deaths. Correct. And I don't know if I have it in this one, but I know I have it's a Isa and a Gibo rune. Gibo is an X, and Isa is a straight line. So when you do a bind rune of a Gibo, which means gifts, like literally it means like to give gifts to people. Like, and then the Isa, the line is for strength and strength of like character. That's what those two mean separately. And then obviously if you bind them together, that's what they mean. So I don't know. Seems pretty like a nice giving things to people and asking for like personal strength. I don't know. It doesn't strike me as like, woo, that's terrible. Very similar. So they were, he says, he's asked, are they very similar to the way the sticks were formed on Abby Williams' body? Would you agree? And he said, Purdy said yes. This is a question by Baldwin. Do you think he should not have been cleared? And Purdy said, I trust the people I work for, and they say there were so many leads to follow up. So if somebody told me someone had been cleared, I would move on and trust their judgment. Yeah. Then we go back to the 2012 the Brad Holder's Facebook post of the two. Somebody leaked it, so I've seen it, but to me, I didn't put any weight into the one that was leaked simply because it has no identifying markers on it. You can't see that it's Facebook. You can't see that it's Brad Holder. You can't see a date. You can't see a time. You can't see anything that identifies it to actual like Brad Holder or Facebook. So I don't even know if the one that was leaked is the actual one, but it's like two women dressed and there's like they're laying on a forest floor looking like they're dead, and they're kind of in a row. They're not really in a V, and there's like a branch over top of them, and then like there's some other branches. So that's the Facebook post. I'm definitely not going to show it because I don't know if it's actually even legit, because again, you know, if you're going to leak something, at least leak it to where people can like be like, oh yeah, it's clearly got the Facebook thing and, you know, the metadata on it, but whatever. The way that the lady was posed on Facebook, right? And then, you know, and Baldwin asked, he said, and still, in spite of that, you did not go to Brad. You just said, he's been cleared. That's all I need to know. But I do want to find out about Odinism, right? I could just see Baldwin asking this question. And he said, yes. Said, no other questions. The trial was done. And the end. So, again, though, like you really have to be in the courtroom. You have to be present in order to get the temperature of how I could be totally misinterpreting that. Both of them could have been like dead ass serious. And I'm like thinking that Baldwin's being a little facetious, like being a little sarcastic, trying to make his point. But if you were there and you think you agree or you say I'm wrong, just say so. I don't care. Let's check in. All right. Monica, Johnny, I think digital. Hey. All right. Gamby says, imagine going to that dude for any expert advice. I feel like I was scraping the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, I just can't help but like think it was like I wish that question had been posed in a different way, because you know how lawyers and law enforcement, it's like they go to special training to avoid answering questions unless you ask them like 25,000 different ways. You know what I mean? So, yeah, like if that's true, that's crazy. Hey, Sleuth, how's it going, buddy? Criminal network. Also true more than Odinism. I don't know. I think I found a paper on this very topic from multiple different sources that all practice Norse paganism, because Norse paganism in and of itself is it's a polytheistic religion, and it's based on many gods, not just Odin, not just Thor, but like many gods. So just how with the Greek gods, that's polytheistic. And then kind of what happened with when monotheism of Christ, the Christian religion, Judaism, Islam, became the modern, like, accepted religions. If you were still believing in the old gods, the polytheism, then they killed them for one, and you were deemed a heathen, a pagan. That's where that all comes from. It comes from Christians. But from what I understood, also true is not, it's not interchangeable with the Norse, Germanic, Icelandic gods. But it seems more interchangeable with Odinism. That's just my take. Oh, the concert. I have a calming voice, really? Thank you. Ooh, Daughtry. Breaking Benjamin, awesome. If it was so did anyone find out if it was an actual scene or where the original pics came from? It was strange. Are you talking about the Brad Holder's 2012? He told Amber Holder, which, I don't think, I mean, some of these people, like, you can't, like Garrett Kurtz, Kagan Klein, like, you can't, Greeno, like, they lie so much that when they do tell the truth, how can you even believe them? Just a bunch of wolves. Or what's that saying about the little boy blue? No, that's not it, is it? That's a whole different one. The little boy and the wolf. There's like a little parable about it. You cry wolf. Nobody's going to believe you. I can't think of the actual little children's story that's told about that, but something about a boy and a wolf. Cried wolf too many times, and then when the wolf really was there, nobody listened to him because he was such a liar. So even though he's telling the truth, and I don't know, does the story say that the wolf ate him or not, or what? But yeah, just but that's what he told her, that it was a reenactment of him and his kindred or something, about a sacrifice, and those were his friends that were laying there on the ground posing for this, and they like took a video of it. I don't know. Yeah, damn heathens. Have any of you guys ever, because I grew up in a very fundamentalistic, cult-like, Christian-based religion, and we were made to watch, and it's called The Pagan Invasion. Write that down and go look up the Pagan Invasion videos. I think you can find them on YouTube, actually. But I can remember those were, I think they were even old, like, I mean, they were played in church, of like the seriousness of the whole satanic panic era of like the 80s and 90s. So the Pagan Invasion is one that is it was, for me, when I found it, it came up just accidentally, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen these. This was like a whole thing they did, these little, for Christians. And I used to think like every Monday was like, oh, my parents definitely have something wrong with them. Like, I didn't know the term then, but like they're totally bipolar, because we never knew what we were going to get taken away, because it was Satan's tool to get into our spirit, and the demons were getting us if we had, the Smurfs on, or records, or it was just always something that we like lost come Monday. But I had never put it together as a kid that my parents weren't they're responsible, but like that's because that was what was taught in church. It's like, I remember the wolf, like Hungry Like a Wolf, like play that backwards, and my mom was, woo, she had some things, like she was a exorcist assistant. So this whole like Pagan Invasion, the satanic panic, it really did affect my childhood big time, and it left with a lot of fear and damage. And I had found an article talking about that, and I know that like I didn't suffer from actually being sacrificed to the devil, or, like anything like that, or the pagans, but it was so scary to hear those stories. And like my mom was pretty open about her like exorcism. So it's just like, and the fear around Halloween and things like that. And it was just like, there is some religious trauma from that. And I had found a article about that, but I think it kind of got I shared it to some people, and I think they didn't they used it to something that I didn't think, like, that it wasn't why I shared it, whatever. Oh no. Did you find it, Sleuth? Oh, it is something. It's something. Yeah, it's amazing how much propaganda I missed out on as a kid by just going to a normal church. We had a bitch stepmom who threw out all of our Kiss records. Yeah, we didn't even have. I had a radio. I had a clock radio. And I wasn't allowed to listen to music at all. Even at church, it was only one instrument. And if it was more than one instrument in the background, that was like inviting the devil. That was a sin. And so, yeah, and I would like, it was a gift from my grandparents, so they couldn't take it away from me, really. Like, they didn't take it away from me, but I would like put it up to my ear and like try to find like music, and just like lay in my bed underneath the covers. I got caught a couple times, I got spanked for it, but yeah, I would no TV. Who knows about McGee and Me? If you know about McGee and Me, then you know about my childhood. Like, that was the extent of the TV, other than like things like the Pagan Invasion, which will like terrify you to do anything. I think, and there was McGee and Me, and then whatever the church produced themselves, and that one Gander. Ugh, like some freaking, I think his name was Gander. I know. I know. So sad. But here's what happened. So when I got into, my parents just kind of they just kind of stopped with all of that. Like, it was like real weird. And when I got into high school, man, I immediately went back to like the 60s music. Like, and I stayed there for most of high school, of like rock music, all of that. Like, I was listening to all of that, and I feel like because I hadn't had it for so long, then I like once I did, I really appreciated. And good music for me is a song that is written that moves you in the sound of it, in the melody of it, but more importantly, the story that the words tell. So it made music. I think I appreciate music and its power to relate. Like, I one of my whole life, like ever since high school, like the trouble with life is there's no background music. It's so true. But yeah, I love me some music. Okay, so oh, I'm telling you, you are about to. Well, don't leave yet. You can watch it a little bit later. I know it's so tempting to go immediately there and watch it. But if you guys have trouble finding it, just send me an email and I'll link it to you. But so special. You can even find some of that. I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Gander. I'm Ganger or Gangrene, like the worst. He was I call them cult leaders of like all of this crap that then all the other preachers at all the other church. My parents went to conferences. I mean, we had this same homeschool curriculum as the Duggars. When I watched the Duggars, that doc, Shiny Happy People or whatever, I had no idea what I was getting into, that I was about to embark on an emotional healing journey that was going to hurt. But yeah, thank God I didn't have a brother. My brother is forking awesome, and I didn't have any of what the Duggar girls had to deal with their brother. But everything else, even down to the curriculum. And get this, like so my brother we were homeschooled for, well, no schooled is what I call it, because we weren't. I got my education from my one day a week, all day trip to the library. But we did not have a formal education until I had some kindergarten and I had some first grade. My brother had nothing until sixth grade. But yeah. And I because I was diagnosed with pretty at the time. I mean, you got to remember, I'm 46, so this is in the 80s. I was diagnosed with pretty severe ADHD and dyslexia, and they sent me to these like special school places. And thank God for like one teacher that's being like, your daughter is like super smart, but like she's writing and you can read it in a mirror. I like all the mom has all my old writings, and when I would write, you could literally like, you couldn't read it, but you could hold it up to a mirror and read it. And so their solution, because that was just of the devil, like I just needed more, they needed to pray over me more. This mental illness, which I don't even know why those things, they're not even mental illness, but whatever, are not that's like a me problem. So they pulled me out of school for that. And yeah, so I can remember just I had to read all the time. Plus I loved getting lost in a book in fantasy, and like I read constantly. But like my little brother couldn't. And so I would do, there were these little packets, right? And I would do his for him. And I'm like, why do I have an extra? And so these little homeschool packets, the girls had a packet like that was just for them of like how to be. I'll tell you about one page of it, right? So it had, now remember, there's obviously nothing even close to like a pornographic photos of women. And I mean, like, they're not dressed in bathing suits. These are women in appropriate clothing, like every single picture. They're in black and white, and they're this woman's outfit. This, I think there was like, I can't remember, there was 3 or 4 on each like page. So you open it up, and then the question is, this is a test part, like which one of these is sinful, or that would lead a man to be tempted by their outfit. And I'm looking at them and I'm just like, they're literally like, so like I couldn't figure it out. And it was really bothering me. And so I got it wrong, because I picked, this one lady had a business suit on that was loose fitting. She had on, like a blouse, but there was like a little bit of her neck showing right here, but it was like a flowy kind of blouse. It was long sleeve. She had like a really loose skirt on that went past her knees. She had on the peels that all the women at church wear. So I circled, because I'm just like, I can't find anything. And so I circled this little area right here. Well, I get it wrong. And it's actually her calves. She didn't have pantyhose on. So therefore she was a temptation for men, that they were going to stumble, men and boys were going to stumble over her unpantyhosed legs and her showing her calf. Like, I can't, like, that's just an example of like but boys didn't have this book, just girls, because it was your fault if you wore something that made a man molest you or like want you. It was your fault. What were you wearing? What did you do? Did you bit, like, I mean, it was just balls out crazy. But yeah, that was my experience. Yeah. Yeah, that happened to me in school when I finally did go in 8th grade. Yeah. I retaliated. Yeah. Smart. Um, all right, Vid. See you later. Happy Friday. Yep, sure was. I don't call it homeschool, I call it no school, from halfway through 1st grade all the way until 8th grade. Might make sense to some people. I get called, an awkward homeschool kid a lot. Did your parents ever realize how wrong they were and apologize? Yes. Yeah, like, you got to also remember that, like, my dad, it's just that big gap too. And while my mom in the holler, it was still, like, when she got saved, she believed that like everything in her previous life was just like awash. And but I think that's what kind of led her down that path of really fearing like satanic possession and stuff, because our like genealogical line with coming from Sarah, West Virginia, if you want to look that place up, that's Satfield and McCoy. I am both. But the long line of like, I don't even know what you call it because they won't speak of it, but like psychic like types of things just from the culture of being in a West Virginia holler, especially one like Sarah Ann, very isolated. So I think for my mom, like denouncing everything that, from her life prior was like drawn to like, oh, that's all satanic now, if that makes sense. But yeah, they're so amazing now, and they got away from that Ganger guy and left that church, and yeah, things are a lot different, and I have awesome parents. I really do. My mom is my friend. My dad is my friend, and we talk all the time. He's my favorite person to talk to, really, other than my girls. Hey, Polly. Yeah, it was criminal. Just like, well, go crazy. Are you really artsy fartsy from Sarah Ann, West Virginia? That is rare to meet. Yeah. Yeah, I really did. And I've noticed the older my mom gets, the more she's going back and like kind of dealing with some of those traumas from her childhood. Like she grew up like nothing that, like when we go back there for reunions, it's hard to even relate. It's like going back in time 100 years, like my family tree on that side is just quite frankly embarrassing. When they did the History Channel did that Hatfield and McCoy little mini docu series. Oh my gosh, my family started because we're both, like I said, but our family were kind of the grunt servants, indentured servants of the Hatfields. And so when my mom's cousin married a McCoy, it did not go over well. And this is years after this feud. That feud is alive and well. And they just said enough and they moved to Indiana. And thank God they did, because that's how we ended up being here too. You don't go back. Yeah, Logan County. Yeah, I go back for the reunions. I've gone back a few times and I'm planning on going back next year. And I'm taking my children so they can have perspective. But yeah, it's wild. It is wild. I have so many stories on that. Like just whew. She's like, I don't go back. Okay, we got to get back to this. Okay, so after Roland, then Indiana State Police Detective Kevin Murphy, which is a name we've heard a bunch. I got this from Asking Connor as well as some of the others. But it starts at about the 48 mark, and so he started with this. So Kevin Murphy is, the famous like Greg Ferenczi, Todd Click, and Kevin Murphy in their investigation into the Odinist angle and all of the people that have been named. So he started in February 21st through October 9th of 2019. That doesn't sound right. Was it 21st of 2018? And Greg Ferenczi was the one that was doing the social media aspect of their investigation. They had Todd Click, and they were really honing in on these men. You can see them. I just don't. I try not to name them. I know I have a few times, but. And Murphy, this is a quote, undeniable link between the two communities with what those people were involved in. So the Rushville, Delphi, and he said there was an undeniable link between what they were involved in. And I did not personally interview Brad Holder. So that was what? Could not place Brad Holder or Elvis Fields in Delphi that day. Aspen brought up, and I thought this was a great point that Aspen brought up, that he'd wish that the defense had asked if that was because they were not allowed the tools to investigate further. Like, go a little farther instead of just like letting that be what the judge is left with, of like, well, why? Like, I wish there was a little bit like, and I agree with Aspen of like, there were so many questions you could have asked, but when you ask someone on a stand a question, like they can't just like meander all around. McLeland would have objected to that, and probably everyone else, because these hearings were long. So then we get to Hullman. Oh, I didn't really write anything down for him. How do I get rid of this? That was a case that I found that I was gonna. How do I get this to go away? Like, what the heck? Okay, so Hullman, he testified 3 times. This was on the motion to dismiss. He is now the ISP. He was promoted. He was a detective at this time, though. And he had not seen any of. Wait, that doesn't even make sense. Man, I really try to take notes. But yeah, he was DIC office of the Lafayette Post. He was the first sergeant. And they oversee all criminal investigations. He was a part of Central Command or Unified Command. I could live a lifetime with never hearing Unified Command again. He did the phone extractions on any examinations of any kind of Brad Holder's phone. Do you have any knowledge of that? And he said, no, sir. Did an extraction ever occur? No, sir. This was about regarding the Purdy Lemire Logansport interview with Brad Holder there in the late summer of 2017. Did you have any information about the records or reports or recordings of that interview or conversation? No, I did not. I did not recall. I never knew that they went over and interviewed him. During the time frame I was at training. So he was gone for 14 weeks. So from December to the middle of January. So I wasn't involved in the investigation during those 14 weeks. I was at the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. So I thought that was kind of important to note, just because that could be why, like, early on, he was gone for 14 whole weeks. So obviously there's other people in the Unified Command. And he said The question was, what I understand, if Detective Purdy's memory is correct, he said he believed August of 2017. But regardless, you were not aware of aware of no recording of that conversation with Brad Holder. Yeah, I have no knowledge of the interview happening or any recordings whatsoever. He believed that the murders occurred between 2:30 and 3:30. This is a Hullman stated this on February 13th on Ron Logan's property across the creek from where the Monon High Bridge is. And at the time of the video is what time? And he said, I believe it was 2:17 to somewhere in there. And you believe that the abduction occurred at that time? Yes. I believe from the video that Mr. Allen told the girls to go down the hill. And you believe that the murder occurred sometime within the hour or so. I believe so, yes. Mr. Baldwin introduced exhibit a little bit ago from Agent Pohl's report of the interview on February 13, 2017 of Brad Holder. Are you familiar with that? He says yes. Where did Brad Holder claim that he was? Assert that he was on the afternoon of February 13th. Hullman says he claimed to be at work at Liberty Landfill in Buffalo, Indiana. And are you familiar with Buffalo, Indiana and the landfill? He said yes. Do you know approximately how far it is from Monon High Bridge area of Delphi? He said it's approximately 30 to 35 minutes. Did he indicate where else he was at after work when he was speaking to officers on February 17th of 2017? Yes, he did. He told them that he went to a workout facility in Logansport. That is the Anytime Fitness, which they do. I used to work out there. They have a pretty good scan. I don't know, 2017, but you scan. Yeah, because I went there. Let's see. My friend was murdered in. No, that was 2009. So I get some of the gyms I've been a member of confused too. So I thought it was Anytime Fitness, but you had a key fob thing. Hated that stupid thing. So this is an email. Looks like Michael. It's basically the check of times at workout. It's workout anytime. It's Anytime Fitness in Logansport, Indiana. I believe that's I'm sorry. This is his work record. Sorry about that. From where he said this is from Liberty Landfill. This is Hullman says. And then he looks at Exhibit 5 and the Anytime Fitness data that they recovered. Yes, this is a login. They had a key fob. Oh, yeah, I'm right. Login system. And this is the time he checked in at Workout Anytime. I don't think that's right. That's called Workout Anytime in Logansport, Indiana. So that was that. And then we have, Luttrell moves to emit some exhibits. There's no objection by Baldwin, no objection by the judge. They're admitted. We got, what the heck? What computer? Why would my printer do that? Just stop making them every other page? Who knows? Brad Holder's work hours on February 13th. This is Baldwin asking, and he says on February 13th, he clocked in at, so this is at the workout place, right? No, this is his work hours. This is Brad Holder's work hours on February 13th. He clocked in at 4:55 a.m. He clocked out at 12:12 p.m. for lunch, clocked back in at 12:42 p.m., and then clocked back out at 2:45 p.m. and I did read later, it'll come up. There is a witness that's been depoted as far as his work, where he was at work that day. I'm sorry, but you're not gonna. Maybe you might talk a friend into doing this for you, but as soon as they find out like what happened, like with these suspicious times, like they're gonna be like, yeah, no. I mean, I think that he was there. Like, I think his alibi is pretty fine. Like, it's set. I know there's some talk about the phone and the thing with, and we'll get into that when we get to Cecil. And the terms of Exhibit 5, what does it say? That he entered, I'm so annoyed by this, workout anytime, because I know that's not the name of it. And that was on February 13th. He arrived at the facility at 4:08 p.m. I actually have screenshots of these. Him and his buddy Will going to, they went like, all of a sudden they just started going a ton to Anytime Fitness. He indicated that he believed his phone had been handed over to the police. So Brad Holder thought that he had handed his own, but he wasn't sure. And he said yes. To that question by Baldwin. His phone and his son's phone were collected at the same time. I don't know. I guess, memory's a funny thing, and there are things that like I feel like I will remember and then I totally don't. But like if someone took my phone, maybe not though. Because I didn't have a connection. Like I had a flip phone until like way past when flip phones were. I don't like change those. So I had a flip phone from like, I don't even think I got my first phone until 2006 or 7. That's when I got my first like cell phone. It was a flip phone, and I kept that sucker for till at least 2000 and probably 9. Yeah. But so it wouldn't have been important to me. Like, I wouldn't remember that, but some people think that like you would remember if the police took your phone. Well, kind of, yeah. And he said, yes, he did, to Delphi police. And he said, I believe so. So again, like some of these are like, I believe. So they're not like facts when you say words like that. Believe, I think, assume, probably, might, maybe. You find it all throughout all of these transcripts, on everyone. And in fact, let's see, Agent Pohl and Officer Goatee interviewed Brad Holder on February 17th of 2017. That's correct. This is getting repetitive. And then there was one thing about Sergeant Brian Bunner. Does anyone in chat know, did he die? And how old was he? And what was the cause? Does anybody know? Because he was the one that did the initial extraction on Libby's phone. And he worked for the Indiana State Police. And he also did a data dump later on from Libby's phone. But Brian Bunner. So this was Exhibit 6. It was a consent to search cellular telephones. Looks like it was located in Logansport High School. So this is when they took Logan Holder's phone they took it from him at the high school on February 14th at 12:45 p.m. And we get into this phone being turned on. So law enforcement believes that once Richard Allen left the scene, this is Baldwin on cross-exam, he never came back on the 14th. Is that right? Hullman says that is correct. And then he asks him, who turned the phone on at 4:33 a.m.? And Hullman says, I believe the phone was still on. I think there was some conflicting reports on when the battery died. I think there's some confusion on the pings. The pings will still go. So I think the phone was still on. There's some confusion on that when it actually went. Baldwin says, who have you talked to about the phone turning on at 4:33 a.m.? And he says, I just heard about that recently. So this is not, it's a little hearsay for Hullman, I guess, but he is the lead. So, was discovered in the new software that they use. So this is talking about that Cecil report. Before that, they believed the last stuff was at 5 p.m. that day. But now I think there's some new technology shows that it was on. And Baldwin says, well, I knew about it last fall. Did you? Did you think that the new software came out before or after last fall? Are you talking about? I don't recall. So you did know about the 4:33 a.m. and Auger announces on the 14th, like that was on the 14th. Thank you. He says thank you to her. The phone was turned. The phone turned on at 4:33 a.m. Did you not know about that last fall? Is that correct? And he said, no, I did not. So they admitted Exhibit F. It was 101 people's phones were extracted. And he said yes. So tell me about it if you know about Nolan Dillon. Did Nolan Dillon date Abby Williams? Because his phone was extracted. He said, not to my knowledge. Did he have a mimicked crime scene note, this Nolan Dillon of the Facebook page? Not to my knowledge. Did he have a hand rune that mimicked what the sticks were on Abby's body? The Latrell objects. What's the relevance? I'm trying to make a point here. I think the point would have been better made, like Brad Holder, like this boyfriend, like of this other kid and Logan Holder, but jump to Brad Holder. Oh. And so he's saying what the other one said. They did not extract his information from his phone, Brad Holder's. But we have 101 people whose phones were extracted that did not have nearly or any connection whatsoever. That's the relevance. Well, and that's what Hullman had to say. No, Baldwin said that. That's relevance. Like you didn't have his, but you had 101 other people that had no connection whatsoever to this. So why not him? And then we get to there was a record of emails between Abbott and the FBI and Doug Carter. Did you know about that? I did. And February 17th, here's suspect 6 is being worked on right now, and he has ties to Brad Holder, who we have been working. He may have ties to Vinlander's DT squad. What's that stand for? Drug task. Brad Holder has drug task squad. What? Baldwin says drug task force squad is apprised and task sources to collect an intelligence which may assist. That is February 17th. That what day was Brad Holder interviewed? The 17th, I believe. Okay, Brad Holder was a suspect at that time, correct? And Hullman smartly says, like Kevin Murphy said, I think some people might have considered him, others did not. Definitely something that we want to gather intelligence about. That's what Hullman said. This is a long investigation where they don't know. So Brad Holder's at work, so all of this to me was kind of moot. Yeah, anything. This one was one that I wanted to point out. But Baldwin, would you agree with me that Lemler and Purdy should have recorded the interview in Cass County? And he said, no, I would not. How can you give me this? What about a report? Should they have written a report? As Detective Purdy said, when we're just gaining information about a subject matter, the state police does not require you to document that information. So I would say most detectives would not have documented that when they were just trying to gain subject matter. That's really just not uncommon. I mean, do you think can you imagine if they had to write a report about every time they spoke to anyone, like getting pulled over and they got like a wrong report about like what was said? Like some of the things are just kind of like, I don't know, you're not really hitting home here with this report. This is early on and, like, I don't know. Okay, there's other things that hit home, but some of this stuff just doesn't. And then Baldwin says they should have taken a report. They should have taken Brad Holder's phone, though, on the 17th. Would you agree? And he says, no, I would not agree with you. You would have taken his phone, were you? He said, no, I do not know if I would have or not. But at that time, he was the father of the boy that was dating Abby, a victim. So we're just getting information from them, and we didn't get the other information until later. The end of Lieutenant Hullman for July 30th. So, now, let me make sure. Yeah. So we are yeah, I read all this. Where is Hullman's name? I'm confused on myself here. Okay, so then on July 31st, we get into the motion to suppress hearing. So this is some stuff from Aspen and Turbo. They were talking about, like, Judge Gall was like just kind of informing the court. She noted that there was 600 juror letters and questionnaires that were going out that day. Jury selection will be on October 14th through, I think that's the 17th, and October 18th will be the opening statements in Carroll County. Rozzi withdrew the motion to suppress the second interview with Hullman. That was weird. And they didn't have any other information, and I didn't have time to look anywhere else. Rosie made a statement about the rights of Allen that had been violated, 5th, 6th, 14th, and sprinkling of the 8th Amendment. I just looked up some codes. This is Indiana Code 34, 46, 31, 1. Quote, attorneys, physicians, clergymen, spouses, except as otherwise provided. Like with law, there's always a clause, there's always a loophole, and that sometimes, like, I hate about it. Sometimes I understand it, but it's frustrating. The following persons shall not be required to testify. This goes into attorney-client, privilege, clergy, admissions made to clergies, admissions made to spouses, psychologists. And then it says at the end of this 2533, 117 about a psychologist privileges. Psychologist privilege, a psychologist license under this article may not disclose any information acquired from persons with whom the psychologist has dealt in a professional capacity, except under the following circumstances. 1, trials for homicide, when the disclosure relates directly to the fact or immediate circumstances of said homicide. Now, if I were Bradley, Rosie, and Andrew Baldwin, I would have dug into this part right here. Relates directly, because of this is a lot of the argument that's being made by McClelland, right? Like, you can't, like, third party, you can't just bring him up on, just your feelings about it, or sorry, Perlmutter. That was crazy. Direct evidence that they were, so I would have hit that right there when it came to her testimonies, the Dr. Walla. Rosie referred to the confessions as 5 compartmentalized buckets. I thought this was good. Statements to the family is in one bucket. Inmate companions is in another. Guards is in another. Warden and maybe the chaplain. There's some letters written, some requests, and Dr. Walla. Rosie said that they may not be able to get to all of the videos due to the volume of videos, and gave Gall a thumb drive of all the confessions. Might need another hearing for this. It's like, well, this is what this hearing is about, Rosie. So I don't know. Stacy Diener for the prosecution added that she would add 3 more buckets. So now we're up to 8 big buckets of confessions. We got multiple person at one time, video movement of Allen, asked for clarity about states actors versus all statements. So she's asking for clarity on what is it that you're wanting suppressed. Believes the motion is not valid and that the defense is asking for new case law. Defense wants all confessions suppressed. She asked to dismiss the suppression motion. Goal asks for Rosie's response. Rosie states that there are 3 problems. All written motions must contain specific, what is that word? Contonation? Is that cogent or cogent? Reasoning, perfect legal authority. Rosie said that Judge Gall is the finder of facts. That there was no hearing on the original safekeeping order and the Judge Diener due process. I talked about that in the beginning. It's not, the Indiana Code doesn't say you have to have a hearing. It just says it has to be upon a motion. Judge Gall indicated that the weight that the jury gives those statements is what it will come down to, rather than admissibility. As far as the direct, like whatever you want to call them, statements, confessions. I don't think they should be called confessions, because just in implying that to a jury would automatically start off with a bias, if you think about it. But admissions, maybe statements, that seems like a more appropriate jury in front of a jury term, until you, obviously they're going to know when they get, but it's up to them to weigh the like, the weight of the actual confessions. Because for me, and I was talking about this with Teresa from Criminality, it was like, if they're just like, I did it. If he's just going around telling every Tom, Dick, and Harry that he can find, like, I killed those girls. No, that's not what, if I was on a jury, I would, like, if that's what these are, no, that is not, that is a, I don't know what you would call it, like a passive type confession. But Rosie responds, I thought about that. This was funny. If those statements are a part of trial, that's putting the cart before the horse. We're asking you to render a legal decision on the righteousness of these statements. And that is a very valid point Rosie made. Diener gets into Article 1 of the Constitution of voluntariness. Miranda rights were given and waived voluntarily. 5th and 6th, environmental factors as the coercion to which they cannot find a case where this exists. That Allen initiated them, therefore proved, just because Allen initiated them, that therefore proves the voluntariness of said confessions. States Exhibit 7 is entered, and that's Don Stevens, the Director of Operations. He's the security for the IDOC, and it's 2023 data on safekeeping. And he said that they have 8 to 9 pretrial detainees, and I actually found it. This is 2024, but they have one like going all the way back for like a long time. So I think they did the, again, this is the commissioner of the IDOC, remember? But it's chock full of information that just like really makes you sad, of like how many people we actually have housed in Indiana prisons. Like, so like on this one, this is here's Wabash, Indiana State Police, Pendleton, Miami, Reception Diagnostic there in Plainfield, Indiana Women's Prison. And then here it says, no, 31 offenders have missing sentencing data due to processing or safekeeper status. Now, safekeeper status can also be for pretrial detainees. And I did find some case law, even though it's back in like late 70s, early 80s, about safekeepers in Indiana Department of, like, in that. And I have not been able to read it all. It'll take me about 4 hours because the freaking appellate courts like to just ramble on and on and on and on and on and on. God, it drives me nuts. So I've got about another couple hours of reading those before I can even talk on them, but I have the research in my document here. Then Westville here is included in that, and there's 14 is missing. So 14 offenders have missing sentences data due to processing or safekeeping status, and it doesn't break down like which ones are safekeepers and which ones are not. But from what I found, and then finding cases where pretrial detainees were held in prisons, it's rare, but it's not unheard of. There's not, I don't know. I think that would be a hard one to, it would be hard for an appeal on the original order for safekeeping. It'll be hard for them with the conditions at Westville. But so Rousley mentioned Allen's due process being violated because there was no, okay, yeah, I already did that. All right, so we're up to a Gallipo, which is when in about just a little less than 10 minutes, Byrne, after reading, and myself are going to be live to dig into some of this stuff. I found Gallipo to be pretty. His testimony was pretty. He went. But my thing with Gallipo is, I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. Is like there are some things like people can look them up in like Case Text, Justia, news. He got in trouble in, I think it was just in 2020 or 2021 for like letting his family live in the house, like the warden's house on like on the prison grounds, which I don't know, like that's not like that big of a deal, but the media made a pretty big deal out of it. And that was in like, I'm pretty sure it was in 21. And then there's some other things that he's been in, like you can find him in, and I have that whole document and we'll maybe get into it later. Okay. So we are going to say bye for now. If there was any questions, I don't see anything. They're not even good at making their own case because it's farther than that. I'm sure what you're referring to, though. Hey, Junior Johnson. Hey, JoJo. You did? Oh, is he passed? He has passed. I would like to know why. Unified pretend. The bucket stuff is word salad. Yeah, I think Aspen made a comment of like about something else, and he was like, "I wonder if Rosie's gonna go get it in one of his buckets." Like, I mean, when you're trying to like paint a picture, those types of things are really good for juries, though, because it triggers a part of your brain that helps you to remember that. So when you paint a picture of something like words in a bucket, confessions in a bucket, like it does, like if it was something that you want them to remember, to paint a visual like memory, like that they could like see, like a scene. Sometimes add like, things like this, even dealing with kids, like dealing with your life, like it's a good way to, or something that you really want your brain to pick up in different areas so that it increases your chance of recall. So, hi, Johnny. Yes, I still think Kagan Klein and some others might have been connected somehow. We don't know. And but while I don't feel that like third party for these particular, like the thing I keep going back to is Richard Allen. They've changed it, at least on my case, but he is charged with murder. He's charged with 4 counts of murder, and the one is parentheses 2. So if I were the defense, I would keep going back to that. Look at the charging document. Look at the charging document that McLeland filed in January of this year. Like, if that doesn't give you cause for third party, but then when you're getting into the specifics of ones that like you can't even link, like why? I don't understand the, I guess just because they're really holding on to this, you know, Pearl Mutter, like taking, like thinking she's just the queen of the, I don't know. I found some cases on her, and she contradicts her own self. Like, I don't know. There's one that was just like, what in the hell? Like this is literally, clearly literally, she said that all the time about herself. Two crack addicts in a hotel room, and because they like mutilated and like dismembered this John, it was a ritualistic sacrifice. And it was just like, what? Like, I don't even think the judge didn't even allow her testimony in, but some part was part of the appeal. The other was just as wild. It was actually kind of was offensive to me, at least, as far as like anti-Semitism type stuff goes. Like, it kind of pissed me off. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll see, but we'll get into that later. I'm going to go for now. But again, remember, this is going to redirect you. This live is going to redirect you right to Burn After Reading and I, and we will be on in like a couple minutes. So I'll see you in a sec.